All right, my friends, I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm heading back to the airport now. Boston Airport is fantastic, easy compared to Atlanta. Jeez, man, Atlanta Airport sucks. Boston Airport is easy. Of course, the minute I say it, I'll probably jinx myself. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot because everywhere up here, including Dunkin' Donuts, it's like $19 an hour. Now, that did include tips, it said, but I'm just like, this is insanity. $19 an hour at Dunkin' Donuts. It's not just up in the north, it's everywhere. And I just think there's this fundamental shift of, that's why it's not, God, I got to turn the air conditioner on. This fundamental shift that has transpired of just labor. Now, when I was a kid, first starting out, I had a hard time finding a job as a dishwasher. You know what I'm saying? Again, I was born in 1970, so you're talking about early 80s, early to mid 80s. I found it. I was able to find that, but I had a hard time. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't easy for a lot of people to get work. I mean, getting work back in the 70s and 80s was not easy. Now, one of the reasons for that is because the addition of women in the workforce. A, we know that for a fact. But B, there just wasn't that much consumption. The World War II generation doesn't, conspicuous consumption, they weren't doing it. They survived the Depression, World War, so they just weren't, blowing money on everything. They weren't eating out all the time and all that stuff. I mean, hell, I remember my Grampy and Grammy, they took us to Denny's, and Grammy would take the jam stuff and then the biscuits and put them in her purse. You know what I'm saying? I guarantee a lot of you will have memories of that too, of your grandparents doing the same thing. And I'll never forget, asking my granddad for A1 to eat meat, and he about flipped out. He said, "What? You're lucky to have meat," because we didn't have any beef. We always had a liver. I don't even know what liver is, but growing up, because it's a poor man's beef, and so we had beef us home. And so I always asked. We didn't have A1. We had some concoction of A1, but liver I hate. Anyway, point being is my grandpa flipped out. He's like, "You're lucky to have beef. I didn't have." It was a different generation. Anyway, there wasn't conspicuous consumption. On top of that, you have this huge group of people, the baby boomers, plus the addition of women in the workforce. So there's a hell of a lot more laborers than there was labor, if that makes sense. People competing for work. All right, that makes sense. On top of that, because the GDP grows because of consumption, 70% of the American GDP is on consumer consumption. The facts were the baby boomers didn't have any money back then, and their dads, their parents, moms and dads, the World War II generation wasn't consuming much. They were just, I'm telling you. So anyway, so you didn't have huge growth. You had a huge labor glut of laborers, I should say, and not a lot of consumption. So work was hard to get, and that kept wages low, for sure. There's no other way around that. You can argue all you want about Chicago School of Economics, labor unions, it doesn't matter. Anytime you have more employees than work, it's always going to be a hurt on your salaries. There's just no two ways around that. And then anytime you have less consumption, which grows the economy, hopefully it's not debt-based consumption like ours is. But anyway, you're going to have less jobs for people to do. All right. Now you fast forward 30 years. Now the baby boomers have all kinds of conspicuous consumption because they've had insane runs of real estate and the wealth effect of their retirement portfolios, real estate and whatnot. Insane. They didn't have any debt. They're literally, college was paid for by the state for the most part. I mean, you look at some of these guys who graduated from UC Berkeley, like $2,000 a year, and even then they're freaking out. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't have the student loans and all that. They had lower price mortgages and whatnot, the whole thing, man. Now they had higher interest rates, I grant you. Anyway, the point being is they weren't saddled with the amount of debt that we have now. And as such, they have huge retirement portfolios, huge wealth effect on their homes and whatnot. And they're retired. So they have all this conspicuous consumption, and they're, baby boomers are in their 70s and 80s now. They're retired. Conspicuous consumption. A lot of them don't have any kids because that's why there's a baby bust. My generation is called the baby bust. And so they have nothing to leave it to. They have all this consumption to do. And now there's this huge need for labor because there is enough people. My generation is too busy paying off the student loans, paying off the mortgages and whatnot from the inflated effect of the wealth of the assets. All right, so the real estate in particular, college loans, all that stuff, my generation got stuck holding that wet bag. And now we got to work hard to pay it, but there's just not enough of us. There is just not. In my generation, a lot of them, because there's a baby bust, a lot of them actually were forced to go to college, because if you don't go to college, you'll get a crappy old job, and even though we're in crappy old jobs anyway. But a lot of us were forced to go into white-collar jobs in a call center or something like that. You know, we could make $60,000 a year. But a lot of us were looked down on just regular blue-collar jobs or just service jobs, working at a Dunkin' Donuts, for instance, where you get $19 an hour plus tips. It's crazy. Anyway, and so you have a glut. I don't know if it's the right word. I'm glut. I don't know. You have a surplus of conspicuous consumers, baby boomers, who are willing to spend a lot of their money because they don't have anyone to leave it to. And then you have a glut. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but a bust of laborers, my generation, because there wasn't enough of us, and we are so heavy in debt that we just simply don't have the capacity to work at a service-oriented job at Dunkin' Donuts, and we were told you can't be a laborer because that's you need to go to college. So then you got no skilled labor, very few and far between. You got no service jobs, because we're not going to fill those jobs because we have a college degree, right? And then you got tons of debt. So we're going to have to do whatever we can to sell our soul for a crappy little job to pay off our debt. All right, so then you got the generation underneath us. It's a big generation, the millennials and Gen Zs. I think I'm Gen X. And those are big, relatively speaking, in terms of where we were. But from a pure numbers perspective, they're large. But actually, in terms of the actual growth, they're not huge. They're just not. If you look at it in terms of the size of the world population, not a huge generation. I know a lot of people say, "Oh my goodness, you're wrong. There's a new baby boom." It's not true. Just look at it relatively speaking to the population as a whole. There's just not a baby boom amongst people younger than me. It's just not. Those people also have huge student loans, probably even larger than me. Huge mortgages if they even own a house. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of them, some of them just don't have the same, it's going to sound bad, I don't want to say work ethic. I don't want to indict a whole generation, that's silly, but there are a lot of people in that generation who haven't had, they were spoiled, man. I mean, look, I don't know what to say. They haven't had to work because their parents took care of everything. You see what I'm saying? And so now this is not an indictment on the younger generation. Plenty of freaking base kids that are kicking ass and taking names. I'm just saying, a lot of these guys don't want to work at a Dunkin' Donuts, don't want to be a carpenter, don't want to be a electrician. They just want to be a YouTuber, or they want to be work for Facebook. So we're left with this. Again, is glut too much or too little? I don't know what it is, but let's just say it's a glut. They don't have enough people to fill these roles. I'm just telling you, man. And if we don't get people to fill these roles, be it skilled labor or service, you're going to go, my generation particularly, is going to go back the way it was of my grandparents' generation, of things just don't get done. You got a freaking, your toilet, I don't know, if the plumbing went down, your pipes went bad, you got a broken pipe because it froze and it exploded. It's going to take a while to get a plumber to come out and fix that, man. So you're just going to have to deal with it. You got some shingles that fell off because a hurricane went through. Unless you get up there, and I don't recommend you do that unless you're a professional, it's going to take a while to get a roofer to come out and fix it. You're just going to have to live without relative to what you think or what you're accustomed to. You can see this a mile away. And then you think up here in the Northeast, they don't have a lot of Guatemalan, Mexican, Honduran immigrants. They just don't. So where I went to my Dunkin' Donuts, it's all Asians. I'm not sure the Cambodians. I'm not sure. I don't think they're Vietnamese. They're not Chinese or Korean. But there are, I don't know from where. Fa was the lady who took care of F-A-H. I'm not sure what kind of, I don't know what that is. Fa. If anyone knows what kind of, kind of ethnicity, I'd like to know. But anyway, point being is, all right, I'm going the right way. Yeah, all right. There we go. To Boston. Point being is there isn't enough people to do these jobs for us to live the comfortable life we want to. We need immigrants, man. It's just no two ways around that. And I've come full circle on this. We need them desperately. All right, I'm going to find, and we better be welcoming, because they're going to come as long as we make the country worthwhile to come, if that makes sense. And right now, I tell you, man, with the way things are going, people are going to say, I'm not going to America. Too expensive. I'm going to stay in Cambodia. I don't think that's hopefully going to happen, but you better roll out the welcome mat, because if you want to live the life that you're accustomed to, you doggone better welcome these immigrants, man. Come over here, because they're going to do the jobs that we just don't have enough people to do. And if you want to live comfortably like you're accustomed to, you better get, no one else is going to do it. All right, love to hear. I know this is going to burn bridges. Don't care. It's just an observation, something to think about for a long, long time. Love your thoughts. We'll see you.